Hey everybody, wanted to do a little short video here today on the Schengen rule and why Heather and I are in Ireland doing what everybody calls the Schengen shuffle. So let's start with the basics. Schengen is the name of a small village in Luxembourg on the border with Germany and France, where the Schengen Agreement and the Schengen Convention were signed way back in 1985 and then again in 1990. The Schengen area allows more than 400 million Europeans to travel freely between participating or member countries without going through border controls and passport checks. Being part of an area without those internal border controls means that countries don't carry out checks at their internal borders, and they carry out harmonized controls at their external borders. So basically, within the zone, everybody can move freely. Coming in and out of the zone, all the countries have to operate under the same sort of rules. That set of rules governing the Schengen area is called the Schengen Borders Code. For travelers transiting through or intending to stay in the Schengen area for a short period, the EU's established common visa rules, and this is essentially the ones that cover what Heather and I are doing. So within 90 days, it's pretty easy for us. If we come into the Schengen zone for 90 days, we can essentially move around anywhere inside the Schengen zone without any problems. But if you want to stay for longer than 90 days, Schengen can become a problem. So the first thing to consider is the sheer number of countries in Europe that are part of the Schengen zone. So if you look at the map that we've got, you can see that very, very few countries are not participating in the Schengen zone rules. That means we're down to England, Ireland, and Turkey essentially, and then a handful of sort of Eastern European countries. And we're actually very interested in those remaining Eastern European countries. The problem is for us, the time zones. I'm continuing to work, and the more eastward I go, the more challenging that becomes. So we're kind of stuck looking at just a handful of countries to sort of manage around that, primarily because of the sheer number of countries that are part of the zone. And it's there's more countries being added to the zone all the time. Just last year, we were looking hard at Romania and Bulgaria because they were out of the zone. Earlier this year, they joined the zone. So those now make them sort of part of the Schengen rule that we have to watch out for. So if you think about prior to the Schengen rule, every one of these countries in Europe was relatively easy to travel, and almost every one of them, for Canadians like us, we had the ability to go there for 90 days, usually 90 days out of every 180 days. So really traveling long-term like we're doing now would not have been a problem through Europe in the past. You could have stayed 90 days in every single country. The problem with the Schengen zone is it treats all of the countries that are participating in it kind of like they're one country. So from our perspective, we can come into the zone, spend 90 out of 180 days, and that's it. So it makes our lives challenging. We end up doing the Schengen shuffle to kind of get around it. This is a pretty common thing in the long-term travel space. So you have seen it has actually increased to some extent participation from people that are doing what we're doing into countries like Turkey, where you have the ability to sort of get around this rule. But let's look a little bit at how the rule works, and that's kind of the point of this video. So the challenge we have is that we can only stay in the Schengen zone for a maximum of 90 days, but then we have to leave for 90 days. That's because you have a 90 out of 180 day requirement. So let's look at how that works. And to keep it really simple for illustration purposes, I'm going to look at our travel in like a contiguous 90-day period, one after the other. So, so if you think about it, you can look at it one day at a time in reality, and you could come in and out of the zone kind of all the time as long as you maintain only 90 out of every 180. That's a little bit more difficult to show in an illustration, and of course it makes the math a lot more challenging. So we'll take a timeline of a year of travel, and the first 90 days of that year we spend inside the Schengen zone. So you can think about what we're doing here right now. That could be inside one of the countries in the zone, or in a bunch of the different countries in the zone combined. We spent our 90 days in Portugal, but there's no reason you couldn't spend 90 days traveling to France, Germany, Spain, etc., etc., etc. It doesn't matter at all which Schengen countries you're in during the 90 days, and you don't have to worry about passport controls as you travel around them inside the zone. But when your 90 days are up, you have to leave for 90 days. And then what happens? Well, now every day you stay, your 180-day window moves, and the days from the start of your original travel start to come off. That means that you can move them to the current day and stay within the 90 out of 180-day rule for a total of 90 more days. So you can see that sort of in the illustration here. As each day moves forward, you take a day off the beginning of your trip that can now be added into your Schengen qualification period here again on the right at the current time. So if you stick to the kind of 90 in and 90 out that we're doing, it isn't really all that hard to manage. But if you do feel like you want to move around, move in and out, or like us, always cut your 90 days back to 80-ish days. We're never exactly 90 days because we don't want to get stuck without an extra couple of days in case we have flight delays or something weird happens, we're sick or whatever. We want to have a little bit of sort of grace room there. There's a lot, if you do want to come in and out and really keep track of all this, there's a lot of Schengen calculators online and apps for your phone that help you figure it all out. And like on this one here, with these tools, you just plug in your day of entry and day of exit. Over a period of time, you can add in multiples, and then it does the work for you. Anyways, that's why we're in Ireland and why we're going to Turkey. We're basically doing the Schengen Shuffle. It's an interesting piece of long-term travel, but very manageable, and we've been able to figure it out so far. So hopefully that was informative. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, everyone.